Hello, everybody. Welcome to NL Media Evening News. Today it's Friday, it's June the 9th, and we got a heck of an episode for you tonight. I hope you're ready. We're ready to go. It's time to go live. Let's get it.
The high school drama teacher over here accuses others of liking the sounds of their own voices.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was a high school teacher before getting into politics, and I'm having a little trouble remembering what exactly the job that the Leader of the Opposition had before getting into politics.
Yes, and he left right in the middle of the semester, and I'm having trouble remembering why.
The small fringe minority who are holding unacceptable views do not represent the views of Canadians whose beds are filled with people who chose not to get vaccinated. The risk posed to all of us by unvaccinated people. It's never too late to do the right thing. We'll be immensely pleased to be able to give you that first dose of vaccine.
I'd like to welcome the fake news media,
and the ideology in order to push particular agendas. And I think some of those agendas, unfortunately, pretty hardcore, pretty extreme. The power of misinformation, because so much, of what we hear coming from these protesters from, a scientific perspective just isn't true. And
can you state categorically? You are fake news, sir.
All right, we are back. We are live and ready to go Friday, June the 9th. Hope you all are having a fantastic week and a start to your weekend. Here in Newfoundland, particularly in our capital, it was a ironic day, a sad day for what most would consider an open democratic nation. So we're going to dive down into it a little bit and see what happened. So most of you might be aware that St. Matthew's Elementary is in kindergarten to grade 6, school in St. John's, Newfoundland, had a drag show amongst other events at their Pride Day. This caused fuss that reached the American media. Blaze TV picked it up. Some right-wing, quote-unquote, Canadian news outlets picked it up, the Post-Millennial, amongst others. And it caused some backlash because parents thought that children as young as 9 being introduced to drag queens and drag shows is inappropriate, to say the least. And if you're a parent and you feel that way, that's normal. And I would hope that if you're a parent and the school that your child went to was having a beauty pageant with 9-year-olds in it, I would hope you would hold the same view, because that's equally as inappropriate, because it's not about somebody's community that they belong to. It's about children and what they're exposed to and what they should and shouldn't be exposed to, particularly in the school place. So there's a concerted effort in the mainstream institutions of Newfoundland to stand in solidarity with this school in particular because of the quote-unquote backlash. We have institutions like the NLTA, the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, and entities like NAPE, which are the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Public and Private Employees, making public statements in support of the school and their events, and in direct opposition to those who don't see it as something that should be occurring in the schools, or maybe they just oppose it. But even to question the narrative makes you bigoted, transphobic, whatever. Even to question whether or not it should be something in schools. Once you pose that question, you are the enemy. Now, if it hasn't been crystal clear to most so far, it should be now, that the mainstream cathedral media is your enemy. They have made statements now. The CBC, the Newfoundland branch, has made statements calling the opposition to this in a elementary school, calling it hate speech, potential violence, bigotry. These are slanderous terms that do have actual meanings when applied correctly, but also carry very negative connotations in terms of somebody's reputation. And this is why when you want to have a rally or a protest against this ideology, many do not even want to consider showing up. Why, you might ask? Because most people do not want persona non grata. Most people do not want their community to ostracize them. It's not a fun feeling. We don't do this for fame or whatever. So, but keep in mind now, as a comparison, here in Newfoundland, we were able to get a couple of hundred people to come protest during the COVID mandates. We were told that was a very small number because we have a small fringe minority here, as I'm sure you were told wherever it is you live. In fact, when we did garner a couple of hundred people at a rally, CBC described it as a few dozen. Think about how vague of a term that is and how it's technically true. Technically 1,000 people could be a few dozen, or because several dozen, sorry, is what they said. Several dozen. Several is not a specific number, and dozen is 12, so several dozen just could mean any number larger than 12, or I guess larger than 2 dozen, which would be 24. I'm interested to see, because by their own admission, at the counter protest that was organized, there was 400 people. 400 people should be likewise considered a small number of people to get out. The problem is they had NAPE, the Newfoundland and Labrador Association for Public and Private Employees. They had the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District, and they had the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association all make public statements and public posts on Facebook urging their own members to show up to this rally. Think about the concerted effort of institutions involved with weeks and weeks of knowledge. This original Day of Right for Parents that we had hypothesized about was planned over a month ago, if not more. And the counter protest was planned immediately. And with all the concerted effort of the mainstream, with these entities of at-length government entities and supposed public and private entities, 400 people by their own admission. That's not me making up a number. You can listen to the footage of their own rally, and they are the ones saying they had 400 people there. So that's a small fringe minority, and by the media's apparent standards, should be laughed at and mocked as a fringe minority that doesn't represent the province. However, of course, it is not that way. We did a broadcast earlier today in regards to this, covering how the CBC looked at it. And I want you to pay attention to the wording they use and how they start with slander and libel. And at the end of the article, not even at the end, close to the end of the article, they already admit what they're saying isn't true. Take a look at this and see what you guys think. Hello and welcome to NL Media. It is Friday, June the 9th, and we're going to take a look at the Cathedral Media's response to parents' concerns about drag shows in schools. Here is the CBC Newfoundland. Enough is enough, says the advocates apparently, after anti-LGBTQ backlash. This is what they're saying. The concerns about drag shows in schools with 9-year-old children, they're calling that backlash. And they're going to amp up their rhetoric as we get through. But at the bottom, as always, they'll admit they're basically lying. So a week into Pride Month, a school in St. John's is receiving anti-LGBTQ backlash for hosting an inclusive event. They won't call it a drag show because they know that that will piss off regular people. So they call it an LGBTQ inclusive event. They're facing backlash, but the school is getting support from community advocates, apparently. Last week, the school held an event celebrating the LGBTQ community. It included a dance party, drag performers, and of course, many rainbows. Again, drag performers. St. Matthew's is an elementary school wherein the oldest of the children are 12 years old. And they had drag performers. But the school is facing online vitriol. This is the part that's an eye-opener. They're facing online vitriol after several far-right social media accounts, including some with millions of followers, shared photos and videos of the event. That's what they did. They shared the photos and the videos of their event to their followers, and that's considered vitriol. Showing what's actually happening in the schools is vitriol because these people do not want to be exposed for what they're doing in schools. Now, we've heard of threats, we've heard of demeaning language, yada, yada, yada. They're making this open-ended claim that they're receiving threats of violence and harm and all this. However, as you scroll past the picture of the interim CEO of the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District, he's the one saying enough is enough. He said that the school district doesn't have immediate concerns following the backlash, but it's standing with the school district. And it's standing with the LGBT community. And the district is unapologetic in its celebration of pride. Keep in mind, these are the people indoctrinating your 9-year-olds with drag shows. And then they move on to an advocate for the LGBT community, Sarah Worthman, who says, we've always existed. No one is ever claiming you haven't existed. No one is even denying your right to exist. What we are denying is your right to indoctrinate children, especially as young as 9 years old, with drag shows. Thank you for tuning in. This has been an NL Media broadcast. Stay tuned. So you see there, the language they use at the start is very strong, very opposing rhetoric, and it's clearly aimed at people that oppose drag shows for children, which in my mind is sensible people, but there we go. Let me know in the comments section if I'm wrong about that. But it turns out I'm not wrong, or at least many people don't think so. Because, like I said, this school, and I'll show you a quick clip of the school, on Pride Day held quite an event. And I'm not sure that they were reading the temperature of the room properly. However, let's take a look now at the reason for the quote-unquote backlash that came from parents. Let's see what these parents were so upset about, and you be the judge. You notice the very end there, the school's tweets are now protected. That is new, not new as in today. however new, since they started tweeting about their drag show for their children. The backlash was from parents who decided that was not okay. Whether they were parents with children in that school or not, it didn't matter because it went viral, or at least what CBC claims is viral. It was picked up again by The Blaze and a couple of other Canadian outlets that are bigger. Now, I mentioned before that there was a concerted effort to organize a counter protest against parents who oppose drag shows for 9-year-olds. Again, I need to repeat this. What's being opposed here is the idea that children in public school as young as 9 should be involved with drag shows. We're saying no. There's a concerted effort to organize a counter protest against us for saying no. This concerted effort started with the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District and the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, who partnered up to create a profile picture for people to to post. Sorry, you've seen it on Facebook. No space for hate, I believe, is the thing with the Newfoundland province and the pride flag around it. And then NTV News, Newfoundland and Labrador Television, NTV News did an interview with the NLTA, which spiraled again. Then NAPE got involved, the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Public and Private Employees. For whatever reason, they decided to rear their ugly heads as if they don't have a glass house that they're hurling bricks from. And if you don't know anything about NAPE, in your spare time, Google them and find out about their fraud, corruption, deceit, and just disgust. But of course, they will come out in droves to support the mainstream cathedral narrative. These institutions had a concerted effort to coordinate together and get their own members to show up en masse to counter protest. And they, by their own admission, got 400 people, which they're claiming is good. But when we had, it was over 275 at last count. We were told that that was a small number and we represent a small fringe minority of the population. And CBC News described it as several dozen. So now have a look at 8 seconds of footage from the protest, just to give you an idea, or the counter protest, I should say, which is in support of drag shows for 9-year-old children.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Safe school! When do we want it?
Now! If the audio is not good for you there, or you're just a normal person who can't hear a liberal shrieking properly, they're saying, what do we want? Safe schools. When do we want it? Now. Which that back and forth chant goes right back to the Occupy movement of, early 2000s. So this group, again, here we go. It's only 8 seconds.
When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Safe school! When do we want it? Now!
Safe schools. What they want is they want their school to be safe for them to bring in drag queens for children who are 9 years old to watch them perform. And we showed you the footage. We're not going to replay it. I don't even believe in playing the footage at all, but I want people to know about what I'm talking about. So that's simply the reason I play it once. You can rewind, whatever. Now, as we look in the comments here, again, safe for who? Diane, you're absolutely right. Andrew, I'm not going to repeat it. I'll just show it here. Johnny's got something to say. Yeah. Yeah, Deborah, you've got it right. Why do the drag queens have to be male? This should not be part of the school system. Again, Tell me and Andrew if we're wrong about that. Now here, Andrew, and for those listening, in the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District, there is a committee, I guess you can call it, Gender Diversity and Inclusion Council or something along those lines. It's headed by Trevor Taylor, whom was the first teacher from St. Matthew's to start posting about, or at least the one who got picked up first, about the drag shows and the Pride Day that was happening at his school. He heads a thing called the Gender and Diversity Inclusion Council or whatever. They also, I don't know. He's been at other schools and he's left. And if there's any parents that want to voice their concerns about that, they can hit the link and yeah, exactly. Look down at the comments right here. So I'm gonna see if we can get this up on screen for you because I want to show you an example of these institutions before I give you a nice, excellent recap. See if we can get this up on screen. Hopefully this one works. So this is the Facebook page for NAPE, Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Public and Private Employees. These are one of the entities, institutions that here in the province decided to take a hard stance in support of drag shows for 9-year-olds. We're on their Facebook page here. As we scroll down, one thing you can notice right here is they've got their contact information. Maybe you're a member of NAPE. I don't know. Maybe you've got family who are members of NAPE. But anyways, we'll scroll. And as we get to the pictures here, these are the most recent pictures from NAPE. These look like they're at a rally. Your eyes are not mistaking you. This was the No Space for Hate rally that was organized by an LGBTQ activist and then picked up and supported by NTV News, CBC News, NAPE, which is the Newfoundland and Labrador Association for Public and Private Employees, the NLTA, the Newfoundland and Labrador Teachers Association, and the NLESD, the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District. 400 people turned up to their event by their own admission. Apparently, things like, love is better than hate, inclusion does not equal indoctrination. Nobody wants to make that a reality. I don't know how else to express this, guys. We're not worried about inclusion. As long as you're talking about people who can consent, which are adults, nobody cares. When we're talking about 9-year-olds, it's not inclusion, it is indoctrination. Keep scrolling. Here is NAPE's post. No space for hate. You can see the flags and then the Black Power fist emoji there. And here we go. Here are the people that support the grooming of 9-year-old children with their great big banner that they had made just in time for the counter protest. Love and acceptance will always belong in the curriculum. Love and acceptance should be mandatory in the curriculum. It's missing from the curriculum. Drag shows for 9-year-olds is not love and acceptance. We are a community. Yeah, you're a community of something. And here you see the mainstream media here. This would be NTV. CBC was also there. Print media such as Saltwire, the Telegram was there. So all the big wigs showed up. All the big institutions supported it. And here's the profile picture I was telling you about. No space for hate here, with the province of Newfoundland and Labrador degenerated by a progress flag. Jerry Earl is the president of NAPE. And as you're going to see, he made a statement that began NAPE's support, which is down here. First, because they really want to make sure they're throwing it in our faces, they even named the people here. So from left to right, you have Brenda Rose on the left, Tanya Hamlin, Wendy Payne, and Nicole Fleming on the right. These are student assistants at a school showing their support for the alphabet Nazis. Again, Jerry Earl was quick to come in and give his virtue signaling. The best part about this is there's 4 reactions to this. There's one laughy face, which somebody found funny. And then the other 3 are members of the people in the picture, just so we're clear. And now we're going to get to Jerry Earl's statement, which was right here. He made a statement online with a bunch of rainbow hearts and the no space for hate. And he said, NAPE fully supports inclusive education and the 2S LGBTQIAAX hockey sticks community in our province. NAPE is an ally and will not stand idly by while hateful and hurtful comments threaten the foundation of equity and acceptance in our schools. What he wants you to accept is your 9-year-old son or daughter watching a drag queen perform in his or her public school. That's what the opposition was to, and that's what this counter protest was upset about. School should be a safe space. Absolutely, I agree. Schools should be a place safe from grown men who dress up in women's sexual attractive clothing and perform dances for children. I agree with you, Jerry. Absolutely, schools should be a safe place. Classrooms should be a place where acceptance, kindness, and celebration of difference is taught. Again, celebration from difference until you differ from their narrative. The minute you differ from their narrative, there is no safe space for you. There is no kindness, acceptance, or celebration of your thought. And here we go. NAPE voiced this, and they said, we will be at the rally on Friday. We hope to see you there. All 400 people that the institutions of Newfoundland could conjure up showed up to counter-protest parents who were concerned about drag shows in their schools, again, elementary schools. So I'll leave you with this. As a final thought, you saw a lot of institutions here in Newfoundland supporting degeneracy. I can't describe it any other way, because we're not talking about the LGBT community, accepting them, or allowing for somebody to be different. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about drag queens being shown to children in elementary schools. That is degenerate and it needs to stop now. But institutional support does not equate to populist support. And for the rest of Canadians who are not in Newfoundland, make sure you understand that before you pass judgment on our province. Just because all these institutions spoke out in support of drag shows and held a counter protest against the people who thought the drag shows were a bad idea doesn't mean that that is the people's opinion. Institutions do not speak for people. So that begs the question, why the concerted effort from these institutions? Some government affiliated, some at arm's length from government, and some supposed private institutions. All work together, all goose-stepped in lockstep formation to Confederation Hill to voice their discontent for parents who were upset that their 9-year-olds had to look at drag shows in school. Now, while we don't have a clear answer for why there is this concerted effort, you can draw your own opinions. And the concerted effort certainly does suggest something nefarious. But the bright side of this is they could only get 400 people. We, as an ostracized fringe minority, being censored online, being mocked by the mainstream, conjured up over 200 people at an anti-mandates rally. Now, we were told that was small, that was little, insignificant. With all the institutional might that exists here in Canada, or in Newfoundland, 400 people showed up. That should be a positive, and it should be something for Newfoundland and Canadian parents to smile about. And with that comes a plea. Do not take your foot off the gas. Now is the time for Canadian parents to start acting. It doesn't have to be rallying or protesting. It can be as simple as removing your children from public schools. They are your biological property. It's your duty to educate them and to keep them safe, and they get neither from the public school system. Thank you for listening. It's been a fantastic one, guys, and thank you for participating in the comments section. I'm going to broadcast some of these comments that strolled in as we play our outro. Friday, June 9th, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you again soon, all right?
So, the high school drama teacher over here accuses others of liking the sounds of their own voices.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was a high school teacher before getting into politics. I'm having a little trouble remembering what exactly the job that the Leader of the Opposition had before getting into politics.
Yes, and he left right in the middle of the semester, and I'm having trouble remembering why.
The small fringe minority who are holding unacceptable views do not represent the views of Canadians whose heads are filled with people who chose not to get vaccinated. The risk posed to all of us by unvaccinated people. It's never too late to do the right thing. We'll be immensely pleased to be able to give you that first dose of vaccine.
I'd like to welcome the fake news media,
and the ideology in order to push particular agendas. And I think some of those agendas, unfortunately, pretty hardcore, pretty extreme. The power of misinformation, because so much, of what we hear coming from these protesters from, a scientific perspective just isn't true. And
can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.